It was a Monday morning in the mid-1960s, and I was stationed at the NBC Artists Entrance in Burbank, the bright, smiling page assigned to greet performers, executives, and anyone else important enough to have a parking space closer to the building than mine. After nearly a year as an NBC page, I decided I was ready for something bigger. Maybe sales. Maybe the KNBC News Department. The man who could help make that happen was Lee Schulman, the general manager of KNBC. Lee was a first-class executive who regularly toured the NBC complex to see what was happening inside his television kingdom. By then, Lee and I were on a first-name basis. Whenever he passed the artist's entrance, he would say, "Hi, Mike." I would answer, "Hi, Lee." In my mind, this meant we were practically colleagues. I had planned everything carefully over the weekend. I knew where I would stand. I knew when Lee would appear. I knew exactly what I wanted to say. There was only one remaining concern: fresh breath. You don't ask the general manager of KNBC for promotion with ordinary Monday morning breath. You need executive-level freshness. So I popped a lifesaver into my mouth. Timing, as they say in television, is everything. A few minutes later, Lee appeared exactly where I expected him. He had completed his tour and was heading toward the artist's entrance doors. This was my moment. "Lee, have you got a second?" He stopped. "Sure, Mike." Now Lee Schulman, general manager of KNBC, was standing directly in front of my counter, giving me his complete attention. Suddenly, the brilliant speech I had rehearsed all weekend disappeared. My heart started pounding. My mouth became dry. The lifesaver, which had been hired to improve my breath, was beginning to melt under pressure. Still, I pushed forward. "Lee, I know Johnny Carson started as an NBC page, and I know the president of NBC started as a page." Lee listened patiently. "And I think I'm ready for a..." Before I could say the word promotion, the lifesaver shot out of my mouth like a tiny flying saucer. It sailed across the space between us and landed squarely on Lee Schulman's tie. Midway down. Perfect placement. For one long moment, nobody moved. Lee looked at me. I looked at Lee. Lee looked down at his tie. I looked down at his tie. Then, we both stared at the lifesaver. Gravity. The little candy began sliding slowly down the front of his tie, leaving behind what appeared to be a narrow trail of executive peppermint. This was not how Johnny Carson had done it. Lee started laughing. I started laughing because it was funny, and partly because I thought my NBC career might be ending before the lifesaver reached his belt. Finally, Lee looked at me and said, "Mike, why don't we talk about this another time?" That ended my first formal meeting with the general manager of KNBC. No promotion speech. No discussion about sales. No interview with the news department. But the story had a happy ending. Within 3 months, I was promoted to the NBC/KNBC News Department, beginning one of the most exciting chapters of my life. I always knew Lee Schulman liked me. Either that, or he decided the safest place for me was in the newsroom, far away from his ties.